We're back with round 2 of Real Well Radio with Ryan Alexander from I Teach Credit.
What's up, buddy?
Thanks
Good
so
to
much
see
for
you,
coming
man.
back.
Good to be here.
You know, I would not be able to do this consistently like I do if I didn't feel like it had purpose. Normally, the purpose is to help promote someone's business, create content for them. I feel like with you and a couple other guests I've had, like we can really help change someone's life or multiple people's lives with the information that you have. So that's why I want you to come back on. We'll do a real quick intro again. We'll let you, get us up to date. I mean, you were on here 10 months ago?
I was trying to figure out how much. I thought it was like 9 and 10 months ago,
Yeah, I think it was January, late January of last year. So bring us up to date. What has changed for you personally or business-wise in the last 10 months?
So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ryan Alexander, and I created basically a program called I Teach Credit because I was so sick and tired of credit repair companies ripping people off. And I'm not saying that every single person who does credit repair is bad or doesn't work, but for the most part, credit repair was like, hey, I'm going to give you the fish, you're going to sit back and relax, and I'm going to take care of everything. The credit system doesn't work that way.
Right.
My program is I'm going to sell you the fishing rod, and I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'm going to teach you how to fish for yourself and for your family for the rest of your lives. That's very empowering because too many people in today's world, they're sitting back waiting for somebody else, something else, to take care of the problems that they have.
Would be nice.
And a lot of times, it's not even that complicated. It doesn't take up that much time. And so, as I always say, I teach people the best and fastest ways to build 800 credit profiles with $100,000 credit limits and enough points and miles to travel the world. You just got to spend 15 minutes a week. And I've gotten so big at, you need to do the work. And what I love about coming back on here was you're talking about educating and bringing value to society. People aren't doing that. It's all about, and I had this epiphany this morning. Honestly, I got out of the shower and I'm like, man, how can we rock this today? And I was like, it's not about the look at me world anymore. It's about the learn with me. If we can create the learn with me society, I get chills saying it. Like, I'm going to have to take this off because I'm getting so hyped about this. If we could create the learn with me society to where people like you who are brave enough to create this platform, these types of conversations, to share that. I'm serious, man. It's a Saturday morning. How many people are still sitting at home sipping coffee?
There's a lot of other places that we could be right now.
Absolutely. But we're here, and I've met with some other people, a lot of other realtors and some other mortgage professionals that I met yesterday that I've been following, and they're like, we want to be part of the educational component. Like, the educational component is going to be what changes lives, like what you just said. And so for me to be here with you to do this, and all the other people, I don't care if they're financial advisors, realtors, mortgage professionals, it's not about the look at me. It's nice that you and I may be doing well, but how much better do you feel when you've helped another family achieve something great?
It's the best part of, of what I do, for sure.
So that was a long way for me to say that's how things are going. Like, yes, last year was a good year. 2024 was way better. 2025, like you said, I want to bring people together. I'm going to bring in help, and we're going to quadruple our impact on society, and that's going to be so freaking cool. I'm stoked about that.
That's good stuff. And we talked about a little bit prior to hopping on about how the business has grown and what you can do to kind of take some of the load off yourself if that's possible. Talk about that a little bit. Like, what kind of thoughts are going through your head?
So what it's like when you start to get to a certain point, you got to scale. You're wearing every single hat possible, and that becomes really, really hard because, like I was saying, I wake up, start every day at 6:30. I'm live on TikTok by 7.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit because it takes a different kind of human being to be able to go live on a social media platform, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
really pisses off
every single day. And I've hopped on with you a couple times. So I don't go on TikTok much, but when I do, you usually pop up. And I literally think to myself, like, how does this dude do this every day? Like, how are you psycho, first of all?
Yeah, I mean... Okay.
So you're a little bit psycho, but, has that been the most beneficial way to build your business? Consistently, obviously, matters.
Yeah. For me, yes. For what I do, yes. I don't know if it would work the same for real estate and for mortgages. I can tell you this. Every single day, at the same times, I see this guy, Brandon from Las Vegas. He's teaching real estate mortgage stuff. There's another guy, he goes on like between 7 and 8 o'clock at night. For me, I don't know what it is. Every single morning I go live, and when I tell you at least 30 to 40 of the same people every single morning come on. I say the same stuff almost every day. I can only talk about so much, right? Like there's only 5 factors in credit, 6th if you count derogatory remarks, but I can only talk about payment history, credit card use, age of history, diversification, and inquiries. I can only say so much about those things.
Yeah.
Every single day I go live, but here's the cool part. Every single day somebody asks me a new question that I didn't hear for 30 days.
That's good.
And that's what's cool. Plus, the other really cool thing about what I do is every single person's situation is different, right? So I always say, here's the race, right? I'm trying to stay in frame here. Here's the race from 300 to 850 in credit. Everybody's coming into the race somewhere differently, right? If your parents helped you, you might be starting here at 700, 730. I'm literally giving kids at 18 years of age, from the day they turn 18, if I can work with their parents, within 30 days, they'll have a 730 to 750 credit score. Like that.
Right.
I have 50-year-olds that are like, I'd love to be in the 600s. I have people, their goal is to get into the 600s.
Right.
Dalen Lewis, one of my biggest clients, not biggest, he's one of my hardest clients, came to me with a 394. He's now 570, and he's going to be 600 next month. Like I can see it. I already see how the algorithm's going to work and play out for him.
So when you see a 394, because we talked about this before,
Mm-hmm.
but I've done mortgages in the past. I don't pull credit daily now, but I talk with my mortgage guys about people's credit. I've never seen something that low. What can create a 394 credit score?
Divorce.
Well, yes.
So honestly, that's what it was. But I think he had like 17 accounts with multiple missed payments because he had like 13 credit cards.
Yeah.
He had 2 auto loans, one for he and his wife, and then something else where basically she took all the money. And I don't know who was really at fault. I don't get into those parameters.
Three sides every story.
3 sides every story, right. But it was 17 accounts, missed payments for months, and collections, lien, like all that stuff piled up. And you're talking about a guy who made good money, and they both kind of were like, I'm going to screw you. And the other was like, I'm going to screw you. Meanwhile, they both got screwed. He just got screwed bigger because he had a lot more debt in his name.
Are you seeing, because obviously that takes time to get a credit score that bad. Are you seeing...
Oh, you have to put it work.
right, to get it that low. But are you seeing pretty much it takes the same amount of time as it took to get that low to get it back to lendable limits?
It takes quicker. 60 days to get that low. You could literally, maybe not quite 60, I would say it could take 90 days to get that low. It's going to take...
Into the 300s?
Yeah. You missed
if you miss 70, you're right.
So here's what happens. You miss that many payments.
On that many different accounts.
And then that many accounts close. You go from having all this credit to nothing.
Yeah.
And it might not quite be that fast, but it definitely happens. So the scale to go down, if you ever notice, building credits like this, right? Mm-hmm. You miss one payment. You have 1 month of high utilization. You have no credit and you open up a new account. It's just that quickly your score can drop. It doesn't go up that high. Now, the only time it goes that high is if, let's say, you have a decent credit score, you have a decent credit account or decent credit profile. I talk way more about credit profiles than I do credit accounts. And then what happens is high utilization. I have boosted, my highest boost was 102 points in 9 days. That was because business owner spends $100,000 a month on credit cards, wasn't using them properly. He didn't know how to manage them. I gave him one tip. I happened to see a window. His profile was going to update in 3 days. I said, you need to do this today. He made a payment on a card that was maxed out, but he's like, I pay it in full every single month. I said, do it right now. I'm like, this card's going to report. He paid it literally 9 days later. He calls me up, USOB, I couldn't believe you were right. And I was like, what? He goes, 102 points. I was shocked at that. I thought he was going to get maybe 50, 60 points.
Right.
102 points. So to answer that part of your question, yes, it takes a long time to build back up typically. If you have collections, if you have missed payments, that kind of stuff. And that's why, like within the mortgage world, there's such a huge discrepancy and people love to argue about Credit Karma sucking and it being so terrible and bad. It's not that it's bad. I always tell people, just go to My Score IQ, go to My FICO, go pay for Experian. Do those paid versions where you see a FICO 2, FICO 4, FICO 5, FICO 8, FICO 9, FICO 10, FICO 10T, or just the differences between a mortgage score, an auto score, a credit card score, and a consumer score. You can see 4 different types of scores. Are they all wrong? No, they're just looking. I always say it's like this. If you and I had bowling pins set up, okay? If you look at it from the side, you're going to see 4 rows of bowling pins, or 5, whatever it is. But you're just going to see, you might be like, oh, there's only 4 bowling pins there. You turn and look at it head on, you're like, oh, there's 10 there.
Right.
It's the same data looking at a FICO 2 score versus a FICO 10 score. It's just what part of that data are you focusing on? Because mortgage scores are looking at 7 years. Why? They're giving you a 30-year loan, not a $3,000 credit card that they're hoping you, I mean, they kind of hope you max it out because they want you to pay 27% interest.
Right.
The national average now is almost 29%. Credit card interest is up to 29% national average. And yes, I'm psycho.
That's scary.
It's scary because people don't know that they're not taught that credit cards are not designed to carry balances. This is why I'm a huge proponent of this. Most people, they know this card is designed to be paid in full every single month. But what do people do? They want to look cool, so they load this thing up buying stuff they don't need, shouldn't have, and really can't afford, just so that they can look cool in front of their friends, post it on Instagram. And then they pay interest on it for the next 6 to 9 months. And they wonder why they're broke.
Yeah. So, you just brought us through a real life. So that was going to be one of my questions, like bring us through a real life where someone turned the credit around. Are there any upcoming regulations or trends that you're seeing that you can enlighten us about?
So, you can't believe everything you see and hear in politics. They're talking about trying to cap credit card interest at 10%.
Wow.
I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think the banks will ever allow it. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think it'll go through so much paperwork, and I don't think it's going to happen. I can tell you the FICO 10T algorithm is designed to try to help people who pay their credit cards in full every month. So like I had a State Farm guy, who was a prime example, I'll never forget him, local guy. He said, I just can't figure it out. My credit score's stuck at 760. I said, okay, tell me about how you're spending. He says, well, I spend about $10,000 a month. He says, or $8,000 to $10,000 a month. He says, and I just can't figure it out. And I said, well, how often do you pay it? And he says, monthly. And I says, do me a favor. I said, and I know nothing about this guy. I said, I want you to just try one thing. Didn't even hire me for consulting it. He just asked me the question. I said, I want you to try one thing. Every 7 days for 7 weeks, pay your credit card to zero. He goes, every week? I said, every week. I said, how long does it take you? You have 2 credit cards. I guarantee you in less than 90 seconds you could pay both credit cards in full. 4 weeks later, he called me up. He goes, I can't believe it. You were right. I said, what happened? He goes, my score's 806.
And what did it start at? I missed that.
He was 760.
Okay. Was he carrying balances?
No.
So he was paying them off in full every single. Okay, yeah, I got you.
He was just reporting. Remember, you get a 30-day window.
Yeah.
Okay. The first day of the statement cycle, the last day. Conceptually, let's say this is the first of the month. This is the 30th. The last day of the month is the statement cycle. Your payment due date is due 3 weeks into the next statement.
Yeah.
So your payment's due somewhere between the 21st and the 23rd, but you're still using your card. So even if, let's say, I'm going to pay my credit card early, I'm going to be a good boy. I pay it early, but I'm still using that card because I only have 2 cards. Now what happens is you're still reporting a high balance. He was reporting like 60 to 70% utilization, and he only had 2 cards. And one of those cards was a business card. And he didn't know that the business card doesn't actually reflect on his personal profile, so according to his credit report, he only had 1 card.
Right.
And he was showing it relatively maxed out. See, most people, if I asked you, and I think we had this before, what percentage of your credit card limit, what percentage of the limit should you be reporting as far as balance every month?
So I
Percentage-wise.
was always told and thought that if your utilization is less than 30%, you'll either stay steady or gain.
30% is the magic number most people talk about.
But it's probably much lower.
It's 3%, right?
and for a lot of people, that's tough,
It's really tough. And here's the cool thing. Credit Karma brought this back. Another reason why I love Credit Karma. Of course, it's hung up right now. Let's go out of it. Credit Karma used to show you some of this information. They stopped showing it. And then they brought it back. So I'm going to pull it back up. And I'll show you my scores, 808 and 811. So they dropped a little bit because I had a card that had an annual fee that hit. Now, I didn't know it. It hit. Whatever, no big deal. But I'm going to show you something really, really cool. In Credit Karma, they now show you in credit card usage. You can look for yourself. What's that scale say?
What percentage? Okay.
0 to 9%.
Oh, yeah.
0 to 9% is dark green. 10 to 29% is light green. 30% is where you start getting into that danger zone. 30% for people that only have a $3,000 credit limit,
Yeah.
that's $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
People spend that a week in groceries.
Yeah.
And for those of you, I mean, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but you can see it. 1%, that's dark green. The point is, if you can keep that lower, people are used to doing what they're told. What do? They get a credit card, they spend for 30 days. The next day, a statement gets printed out, and it says, Brian, you spent $1,000 in the month of November. December 21st or December 23rd, we want you to make a minimum monthly payment of $35. Right? You're like, this is great. I spent $1,000 and I don't have to pay $35, and you're happy? Of course they're happy. They're paying 27. You're paying 27% interest.
Yeah, they're in it for the long game.
But what happens is instead of waiting that whole month, and that's why people get into trouble, treat a credit card like a debit card. Every single week, I spend $250. Boom, pay $250. Now it makes it easier to manage your budget, because that's what my whole thing now is about: budget, credit, and savings. If we can teach BCS to everybody, that is where we're going to change society, because it makes managing credit simpler and easier. It makes paying your bills simpler and easier, because you're like, oh, I don't have any more money. I can't spend any more money unless you just choose to be negligent.
I'm assuming most of your customers aren't able to, at least when you first get them, pay everything to zero every week.
A lot of them can't.
That's why you got to bring in the budget aspect and
Absolutely.
all that good stuff. So something that I think, you told your story last time you were on here. Bankruptcy was part of your story.
I was told to declare bankruptcy, and I chose not to. It took me 2 years to pay off all my debts.
Okay, so I did like 10 years ago. And one of the things I was going to talk to you about last time you were here, but I totally forgot and just was kind of letting it go, was I had one score that was just under 800 and one score that was about 100 points lower. About a week or two ago, the other one went up almost 100 points because I guess it took 10 years.
10 years.
But the other one has been almost 800 for years now.
Yeah. So it's just all about reporting. What does report and who it reports to. They don't have to report to all three bureaus. It's just like credit inquiries. Like American Express only pulls Experian. So when you look at Credit Karma shows you TransUnion and Equifax. It doesn't show you Experian. I've had a guy who Credit Karma scores say 747 whatever. His Experian score was like 650. Well, I didn't know that. Now, if I'm taking the odds 2 out of 3, I'm like, okay, I think everything's okay. Sure enough, he got denied for Amex, which is a good part because with Amex, if you get denied, they don't give you an inquiry. They'll say, hey, you don't qualify.
So how do they? Okay, so it's not an automatic inquiry when someone pulls your credit.
Not always.
Institution. Okay.
This is another reason I love Amex, and I'm a huge proponent for them because, first off, if you're brand new to Amex, you go to Amex to get approved for your first card. If you get denied, they don't give you an inquiry. They'll tell you why you got denied, but it may not also be accurate. I've learned that too. Sometimes it's somewhat misleading. Like I had a girl just get denied for Amex. Her scores were like 720 or something. Her Experian score was in the 6s, but she also had 3 missed payments. She didn't tell me. 3 missed payments in 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. But I didn't see that when I looked at the Credit Karma information at first. I had to look at her Experian because it was only reporting to Experian. And I was like, well, how's that happening? Then it just becomes dependent upon each bank and each account because they report differently to certain bureaus. Like Capital One's across all bureaus. And when you go to get approved for a Capital One credit card, it's a hard pull right away.
Right.
But Capital One has their pre-approval tool, just like Discover, and Chase brought theirs back. So you can go to, just Google, just for you and any of the listeners, just Google Capital One pre-approval, Discover pre-approval, Chase pre-approval. They're the 3 biggest banks outside of Amex that you should start building with.
And the pre-approval tool tells you put your information in and it tells you what cards you'll be approved for.
Correct.
Before they do the hard pull.
It's a soft pull.
Okay, that's good. I mean, that's really good.
It's great.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Have you had any of your clients like getting ready to have kids go off to school for college and talk about like that process? Like trying to get funding for school, for college.
So that's an interesting thing, and it's a little bit of a hard answer because the conflict that I've been seeing is with kids going to college, most parents, by default, they co-sign for the loans. And I tell them not to,
right.
Especially in today's world. I'm going to tell you right now, kids, I think, and I'd like to get your answer on this, I think we've lowered the bar as far as accountability for all people in this country, especially kids.
I would agree with that. I mean, it definitely depends on the parent, but sure.
I'm not sending my kid to college at $10, $20, $50,000 per year if they suck in high school. Not doing it. And I see parents saying, "Oh, my kid's got to get a college degree." They go to college, they party for 4 years, they're $100,000 in credit card debt. The parents are now on the hook for it.
Yeah.
That influences their debt to income
How does
ratio.
that work? If you co-sign, so it's the same as co-signing for a car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're hooked.
I mean,
you're not getting out of
the
it.
thing that we see a lot being in the business that we're in is we deal a lot with small business owners. A lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, weren't good students. Me included. I don't know how your school. I mean, I have a
I almost
college
failed
degree.
out of school. I didn't know if I was graduating the week of I was supposed to graduate high school. I didn't know if I was graduating because of Spanish class and because of one other class.
I have a college degree. It's because my mom taught it with sale. Thank God. Thanks, Mom.
Cool.
I went for free, so I don't have any of that debt. But I see a lot of people that are like us that we talk to saying, almost every single entrepreneur that I know that's successful, was horrible in school. Most of them don't have college degrees. But also, like, how many people don't have college degrees, are barely making ends meet? I think there's a lot more people. Like, having that piece of paper doesn't guarantee anything. I've had one job. It was for Chrysler Financial, doing collections. My first job out of college, it actually required a college degree. Everything else I've ever had did not require one. So it's like, it's a really hard thing to balance, dude. Like, setting your kid up on the right track. I was having a conversation with my son the other day. He's a junior in high school. I said, dude, like, you're gonna have to make a business decision. Like, we're gonna help you with this, but like, he wants to play sports in college, and he's like me.
How old is he?
He's 16. He's a junior in high school. So, he's football. He's mainly lacrosse. We're still, we're getting close to getting to that process, and it's like, who knows, maybe you get some money somewhere and everything works out good, but you hate to see someone, your son, your daughter, starting out their adult life being in that kind of debt. I don't know what it's like. Thank God.
But you've been in debt before, right?
Yeah.
And you know how hard that is.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're in debt, it's to your point earlier, life's hard. There's a lot of people barely making it.
Yeah.
It's even harder to try to make it when you've got $300 of student loan debt that you got to pay off every month. Yeah. Before you pay, an auto loan, mortgage, or anything, like, that's coming. And I see it a lot. I mean, I see people, with $200,000 of student loan debt, and then in my fact finder, I'll say, okay, what's your income look like? Just give me an idea. And I'm like, you're making that much money on a $200,000 education? That's scary.
Right.
Of course, I don't say that to them.
Right.
Sometimes I will say, like, okay, like, are you not where you're supposed to be from a job wise? And they're like, oh no, this is the industry. And I'm like, that makes no logical sense. Why would somebody need $200,000 of education to come out of school? I have no college degree, and I do way better than that.
Right.
And it's like, that's where I think, even trade schools. I see kids that are 20 years of age making $100,000 a year because they went to electrical school and they're electricians, and they're making $100,000, and they went to school for like 6 months, and they do apprenticeships for another year or something like that. Like, the whole school thing is really weird. It does benefit kids. It benefits the parents. If a kid's going to go to school, you build that kid a credit score so that when they go to apply for student, financial aid, they can sometimes qualify for things on their own. The problem's going to be income. This is where I think it's great that Johnny and Susie want to play sports. Make them learn how to make money, because God forbid they get hurt. They don't know anything other than playing sports. You never taught them to get a job. You never taught them to learn how to budget. I'm sorry. I feel like parents are screwing kids up today because I want them to live a better life than me. Okay? Make them learn how to survive before you learn how to survive.
All right.
You can still treat them well. You can still spoil the crap out of them. Like, my kids know. I mean, they're my stepkids, but they know. Nothing in this world is free. The more they do, the more I see them try, the harder I work to give them more, but they see how hard I work. Like, my kids see me get up at 7 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday morning, and by 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm live. They see that stuff.
You're doing it 7 days a week?
7 days a week, man.
You're going on until Sunday morning, and people are on TikTok talking about credit.
You would be blown
So I forgot to ask
away.
you. I think we may have talked about this last time, but have you tried Instagram or Facebook Live?
I've tried all of them.
And
I'll go live on Facebook. And the cool thing about Facebook, like, is when I'm done going live, you can watch the replay. Right. I may get 15 people that go through.
Yeah.
I may get 15 people that go through while I'm live over the course of a half hour. Maybe 20.
Also, when you're live on Facebook, 5,000. I mean, however many friends you have are the only ones that see that, right? What's your TikTok? At least it was like a crazy number.
So it's funny. I would do it now, but I don't know how it would work in the show. Maybe I'll do it as soon as we get off this thing here. When I go live on TikTok, within 3 minutes, they will pump me up to a minimum of 250 to 300 people.
Because you've done it consistently, and
No, they'll do it. If you went live on TikTok right now, they'll probably put you in front of, I'm going to say, 150 to 200 people within 3 minutes. And then you have that 3 minutes to capture enough people's attention that they're liking or commenting on your thread. And that's all part of the secret of it, right? Like TikTok, if I showed you all my stats on TikTok, 93% of all of my engagement and people that show up on my lives are people I don't know. That's the best part about it. TikTok's throwing you in front of people that don't know you. Facebook and Instagram, it's in front of people that do know you.
So for TikTok, you'll show up on someone's feed, but they have to click into the live before they're on there?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if I'm scrolling, right, and I see somebody's live, they don't know that I'm watching them unless I tap them. If I don't tap into them but I'm watching, but I'm just watching a live, my phone will shut off. My phone will go inactive.
What do you mean?
So if you open up TikTok, right, and you're just scrolling, right, you're just scrolling, but you're not actually in a live. Your phone, just like the light times out, it'll time out and your phone will shut off. Just like, like I set mine for 30 seconds. If I don't interact, if I don't touch my screen shuts off for 30 seconds. If I'm watching a live, I could just let my phone sit like this. It'll sit there for 3 hours watching somebody live.
It's kind of like
so once they tap into my live, now they're in my live. Now I can see, Brian McNichol join my live.
Gotcha.
I can see that. And then I'll say, if that was helpful, do me a favor, tap that screen. And I always, because they love, I say funny things like, you keep tapping, I keep yapping. And people laugh at that stuff, right?
How long do you stay on, typically?
30 to 45 minutes average.
Okay.
And a lot of that depends on the questions. If people are asking me a lot of questions, like I used to pick up 150 to 200 followers every day. Now I average between, I'm going to say, 20 and 40 followers every day.
It's all the same people, pretty much. You said they're hopping on the lives, right?
That is, yes. But typically my lives will go anywhere between 4,000 to 5,000 average viewers that will go on there. Yeah. Average commenters is between 130 and 180.
That's awesome, dude.
And they may put one comment.
So when you do the live, you can't go back and watch it? It doesn't go in your profile?
You can't.
Right,
I can.
Right, in your profile.
I can go back. In fact, I probably could even download it. I'm not even sure.
Gotcha.
But the cool thing that TikTok has done now is when you're in your live and you have moments where there's high engagement, high tapping, or high, comments or whatever, TikTok now has this section, and I don't know if it's the same for everybody. I know it's doing it for me now. When I have those high engagement videos, that it will save clips and it'll say, here's where your highest viewer peak happened. Here's where your highest engagement peak happened. Here's where you had a whole bunch of taps or likes on this one right here. It's really, really cool.
TikTok will do that?
Yeah.
We'll give you
I'll show you this afterwards, yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll take that clip and then I'll share that on social media or I'll share that on TikTok as like another thing because you just hope that it works. But with TikTok, it's all about the title. It's all about the keywords in the video, the keywords that you type in the description, and then the tags. There's literally 4 spots, and they have to all sync with each other. Right. Like if I talk about American Express Platinum, like I just know, if I talk about American Express Platinum, I did one yesterday talking in the snow. I was walking in the snow, and it's one of those. What's that?
Where were you in the snow?
I was in Doylestown.
It was snowing up there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So I left. There was a mortgage office up there that was doing something, and the guy's been sending me. His name's Brian. He's sending me a lot of business, and I've never met the guy. Mm-hmm. And he sent me a lot of prospects. Of course, a lot of them don't turn it because, like you said, they're broke, they don't have money, whatever. But so I said, dude, yeah, I'll come up and meet you. Went up there, met him, and I left. It started snowing. I was like, cool, I'm going to post a quick video. American Express Platinum or Amex Platinum videos always pop off. If I give the absolute best free credit advice and information, I get 1,000 views, 1,200 views. Nobody cares. But if I show the shiny object, right? Like, that's what people want.
Yeah.
They want to see the shiny object. That's what sells them.
That's cool. Let's talk a little bit about it's mostly small business owners that watch this and have an interest in this kind of stuff. I saw you talking about it, promoting like small business lines of credit and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like talk about that a little bit.
So the best way to get small business lines of credit is always investing first in a personal profile, right? So with business owners and EIN numbers, banks are afraid because if they don't know what your income looks like, they have nothing on you other than a personal credit score, right? So I bank with Chase and I bank with Amex. So I have two sets of revenue streams that go into each one of them. Like one goes into Chase, one goes into Amex. And so they have a good idea as to what my life looks like from a financial standpoint, P&L. I also have 7 Chase credit cards and I have 9 Amex credit cards. So they see everything, and I have a high yield savings account with Amex. So they see a lot. So like when I show people on this card, my business gold card, right now my spending power, because this is a charge card, not a credit card. For those of you who don't know, you know what a charge card versus a credit card is?
Remind me. I remember we talked about this before.
So we'll do this. So Capital One Venture, Chase Sapphire, Discovery card, these are all credit cards. Credit cards have credit limits. Amex Gold, Amex Platinum are charge cards. They don't have an actual credit limit. So if I look on a credit report, it won't say you're using $750 of $10,000. It'll just say you're using $750. Where you look at credit limit, it'll say NA.
So how does the credit bureau like that, hate that, help you, hurt you?
So from the credit scoring standpoint, the credit limit actually helps. It's 30% of your score. So credit card usage is how much credit do you have versus how much of it are you using.
So is that hurting you since it's the other one? So
it hurts me because it doesn't show the limit. The limit on this card, $500,000. I could spend right now. I'll show you on the pre-approval tool. I could swipe this card right now for $500,000.
But it doesn't. It shows NA on the credit report.
It'll show NA as far as that. But when you look at my credit report, if I do that, it'll say my monthly payment is $500,000.
Oh,
because it has to be paid in full.
Yeah.
And if I did that right now, Amex would probably call me that minute and say, we want that payment right away.
Right.
Just because I have the spending power. Now, if I ever went to do that for all you business owners, if you ever do know you're having a big payment, like I had a coaching plan that it was coming up, it was $5,000. I called them and said, hey, I'm making a $5,000 payment today. They're like, cool. They like to know that. But it's good to have credit cards at first. This is why I always say have 5 credit cards when you start building out your profile to get that business credit, because this shows credit card usage, and that's part of the equation. When a bank wants to give you money, they're looking at 5 things. What's your current credit score? What credit cards do you currently have? What's your current usage on those credit cards? What's the rest of your total credit profile look like? And how many accounts have you applied for recently?
Right.
So the banks are looking for that stuff. So when you're trying to get approved for business credit, this is what I always tell people. 5 credit cards minimum before you ever try to get approved for any kind of business lines of credit. And you want to have a minimum of a year of business credit history.
Well, that's what I was going to say. How long the EIN number? Only 1 year? I thought it was 2.
So in order to build typically a minimum of an 80 paydex score, they want you to have 2 years of business banking history.
Right.
Okay. But there's programs out there where you can streamline that process. So between having your personal profile, the net 30 accounts thing, like everybody talks like with business credit, they say that helps. You could also go to like wacky banks like First Bank of Omaha or something like that, where you might get a credit union credit card where they'll give you like a $10,000 limit. But most of that's not going to be real. And I mean, people do that to do cash advances. I mean, it's like worse than a hard money loan. Like, I don't know why people really do that. You'd be better off getting a hard money loan. But some people, they just want to go.
Well, a hard money loan as opposed to what?
As opposed to getting a cash advance on a credit card.
Oh.
Cash advance on a credit card, 27%.
It's really expensive.
Really expensive. And I see people saying, go get 5 credit cards and just max them all out and just tap that cash. If you know what you're doing and you have to do that, that's fine. I see people who don't know what they're doing. They go get these credit cards. They max them out. They go think they're making an investment. And then what happens is that they're screwed.
It better be a quick turning investment to get you to...
Should be. But again, so for business owners trying to really build credit, business credit, what you have to do is
have a strong personal profile.
Absolutely.
And go to, if possible, the banks that you bank with the most and have your information. Or if you don't have great information, try to go somewhere else.
Right. But that's why I say to people, like some of the best banks, Capital One is a good bank to build with. Okay, even though the Capital One credit cards, like their Spark card, reports to your personal profile. People don't know that. People are like, why is my score so low? I'm like, your Capital One card's maxed out. And they're like, I don't even use that card. But I'm like, yeah, you do. They're like, oh, it's my business card. So they don't know that. And they're, again, information I can see in Credit Karma. But what I tell people is build that personal profile first and then go build the relationships. So have your Chase, your Capital One, your American Express relationships personally. Okay? Even if they're simple, no annual fee cashback cards, it doesn't matter the card as long as they can see the activity. Then when you go to get the Capital One, like I got the Business Venture X card. I've gotten the Chase the Chase Business Inc. Unlimited and Preferred cards. I have Amex Gold, Platinum, Blue Business Plus. Then once you've established those relationships, personal cards, then it makes it easier to get the business cards. And then from there, great tip. You want to build business credit, go to the local bank, get a $500 or $1,000 business loan. Whatever you get, like if you're brand new LLC, open up a checking account, try to get the smallest loan that they'll let you have. Right? I did this with American Express. They're probably watching and listening to this at some point too. That's okay. So what it is, I got the biggest line they would give me, brand new. I opened up my business checking account with them, and I said I want to apply for a business line of credit. They would give me $3,000. I got a $3,000 line, and people are like, "You don't even need the money." I'm like, you're right, I don't. But I wanted to show American Express that I could use it wisely. So I made my first payment. It's like I don't even remember what it was, $350. I made that payment. So now my balance of $3,000 minus the $350. So I'm at $2,650 plus whatever the interest is, because obviously they're tacking on interest. That day, after that cleared, that day I paid off $2,000.
Mm.
So then I just had to make however many payments. You want to try to make it so that you pay 6 payments for any new account. But by paying off the $2,000, I'm no longer paying interest on $2,650.
Right.
I'm only paying interest on $650.
Do you have any experience dealing with TD Bank?
No.
No.
I mean, I personally bank with them as well. I've had them forever. And it's only because most of all my personal bills are tied through them. I haven't switched with them, but I've never built any. I don't have a single credit account. I've never done anything with them.
Okay, that's where all our stuff is at the moment. But yeah, man. I mean, having credit is great. We like personal story. Like we bought a house, me and my wife, 2017, something like that. Obviously, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
We paid it down, put a decent amount down, got a home equity line of credit. 2 years ago when things went like dead around October of 22 and rates shot up, it was a tough time. And I didn't need to tap it at that point, but it's always there, and we're currently using it to pay for her nursing school. You know what I mean? So it's all about flexibility for me and having something to fall back on. And obviously the interest rate is much lower on a line of credit on a home than.
This is something that I try to teach a lot of people, and you just literally hit the nail on the head. I always tell people, and I was telling people this 18 months ago, when I saw that change happening, or maybe it wasn't quite 18 months, I guess it was 18 months, 24 months ago, when I saw the change happening in the real estate and mortgage world, I was telling people, do not lean on credit cards. We know you all have equity in a house. Go get a line of credit or go get a loan. I'd rather you go get a loan at 9% interest than ride out your credit cards, because what happens is you get a loan at 9% interest, fine, you're paying 9% interest on the money that you're borrowing, but it's money you're taking out of your house. But if you need that money, it's there.
Yeah.
I had people leaning on their credit cards. There's 2 negatives to that. You're talking 24% interest at that point in time. And all these people were riding out their credit cards that when they went to go and try to get a loan to refinance, their credit scores got tanked.
Right.
So they couldn't do it because they were riding the credit card limits. So always ride out debt on loans, never on credit cards. If you have to, make the purchases on the credit cards to get at least a 1 or 2 or 4% back on the purchase, but then immediately pay it off and move that debt to a loan.
Is it the same rule for a HELOC utilization as a credit card? Like that percentage?
Yeah, if you have the choice, because HELOCs are adjustable, home equity loans are fixed. The problem with HELOCs is, depending on where rates go, that could get a little high too. It's still better than a credit card.
Right.
It's still better than a credit
card. As far as credit reporting.
Yeah.
Is it the same?
Yeah, it's a home equity loan versus a line of credit. It's all the same. Even though line of credits will show like limits, because a line of credit has a certain limit, it will not report as a credit card unless it's one of the things I don't know. There's a company out there called Aven, Aven. Aven is a line of credit, credit card tied directly to your house. I don't know how that reports. I've never come across anybody that has it. But it's called Avon, and what they do is they give you a credit card. The credit limit is based off of the equity on the house. So they have a rough idea as to what your house value is. Right. Like if you go into Discover,
When
you
you're
go
putting a
into
lien on your house, the interest rate better be much lower than a credit card.
right, because there's collateral.
Yeah.
They have collateral.
Yeah.
Versus a credit card, which is unsecured.
Right.
That's why secure credit cards, Discover, Capital One, whatever, you're putting $200 down. By the way, anybody ever has to get a secure credit card, never more than $200. It's not the size of the limit that matters. It's all about the utilization, right? Like when I tell people paying off their credit cards, one may have like $9,000. I'm like, it's not about the size of the dollar amount. It's the size of the utilization. So if you have one credit card with $5,000 debt and you have 3 credit cards totaling $3,000, take the $3,000 and pay off those 3 credit cards, because those 3 credit cards reporting 0 will boost your score more than having one card that's got $5,000 of debt on it.
Right.
But it's really just important for people to realize that using credit cards, again, from an interest standpoint, from a utilization standpoint, there's all these moving parts. It's better to have loans, lines of credit. It's just way better for people that way.
Cool, man. Well, we're already past the longest podcast
Really?
I've ever shot. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before I get to our closing question here?
I do. The first thing I'm going to say is there anything from you, I want to ask you first, is there anything from you that you've seen with regards to your clients that we could just drop real quick knowledge on, or just a little bit of advice to say, hey, this is something you should be doing or looking out for?
As far as credit?
Anything like with regards to credit?
Well, I always try to get anyone who has an inkling of wanting to buy to my mortgage guy 6 months before they actually want to start looking.
Great
to
advice.
Check the credit, and sometimes, like you just said, not just, but 30 minutes ago, it could be a quick fix, or it could take 6 months. So in order to get your credit, because you always want to get people, most people know this, but better the rate, the lower the payment, the better the credit score, the better the rate, usually, So in order to get all those ducks in a row, just starting as early as possible.
I always say this.
Did I lead you in the direction you wanted to go?
Yeah, definitely. I always say this to exactly what you just said. For example, the difference between a 600 credit score and a 750 credit score could possibly be done in 6 months, maybe 9 months. But the difference is going from buying the house that you like to buying the house that you love. The payment's the same.
Yeah.
But the interest rate
Buying power, brother.
reduces the interest you're paying and increases the principal you're paying, and that makes you be able to buy the house that your wife loves more than the one she likes.
Yeah, man.
One of the things that I want to talk about, mention, is this. You have to be absolutely careful with credit cards right now. They are reducing credit limits like crazy right now. What's happening is people who are riding out credit card debt, they're slowly trying to pay it off. Every time they pay it, they're lowering the limit. They pay it, they're lowering the limit. It's happening a lot right now.
Every company?
I can't say every company. Yeah. I could say the majority of them. I know Amex is taking people that have no limit cards, and they're placing limits on them. They're capping them as far as limits. I've seen just yesterday somebody with Capital One it happened to. Somebody with TD Bank it happened to. Chase, I'm seeing it. And I will say this too, with the order of paying debts, if you do have debts, you always pay open active credit cards first. You pay closed accounts second. You only pay collection accounts if you've settled everything else and paid everything else off. People don't know that. People are like, if I pay a collection, like, no, pay your open credit cards first.
Wait, when you say pay a closed account, they're closing the credit card?
So let's say, for example, somebody who went through a rough time in real estate, right? And their credit card's maxed out. Maybe they missed a couple payments. What happens is the first step is, at some point in time, the bank will close that account. So it's no longer active, right? But it's still sitting as the debt with the original creditor. At some point in time, if it's never addressed, that will get sold, because what they're going to say is, okay, this guy owes us $5,000. This debt collector is going to pay us $500 to $1,000 for the debt. So now we're at least making $5,000, or we're making $1,000 of it. They're now going to buy that debt, and then they're going to come after you for $5,000.
So the collection company is paying the credit card company $6,000 for a $5,000.
No, If it's a $5,000 debt, I'm the collection company and you have the debt. You're the credit card company. I'm going to come to you and say, hey, you got this $5,000 credit card debt here. I'm going to give you $1,000 for it. And then I'm going to go after the debtor or the consumer.
And then give them the money.
And then say, you owe me $5,000 now. I just bought this debt. And so now what happens is I try to work out a deal where I make you an ATM machine for me. So then now instead of paying you, the credit card company, they're paying me back the $5,000 over small payments. I just have to make back over $1,000 and then everything else is gravy.
Right.
That's what's happening. But what you want to do is before anything ever gets into a collection status, you want to pay closed accounts, because if you don't and they go to a collection status, that's what hurts your score.
The communication. So is there communication when a company closes an account?
Yeah, they'll tell you.
Okay.
You'll know it.
Are they communicating when when they're possible what's it called? The limit, when the limit gets lowered.
Yeah, they'll send you a letter. So you pay it down, they'll say, yeah, we just lowered your credit limit.
Okay, so everybody should know that if they're opening their mail and such.
If they do. But and that's another thing, like the unfortunate reality is people, when they know their thing sucks, their credit sucks, their situation
in the mail.
they're terrified.
Yeah.
They don't want to face the reality. And in reality, like a lot of people, I'm like, you're not that deep into debt. Oh, I just don't want to look at it. But why? Like in 6 months, you'll be out of this problem and you'll be in good shape.
Right.
And people just don't want to address it. But it's one of those things where, again, people don't talk about it. People don't want to be embarrassed. People don't want to have their egos shot because they're like, you don't know this, your score sucks. Like that. People are afraid of that. When I was in the 600s, I was telling everybody, hey, just watch. Like, we're going to go on this ride together. I'm just going to show you all. And 6 years later, it'll be 7 years this January. All of a sudden, here I am now teaching this stuff around the world. It's awesome.
It's awesome, man.
And I'm thankful for you guys like you who are giving me the platform to be able to say, hey, it's not about me. It's about the ripple effect of what you and I talk about. And how many people, because you're going to learn one or two things from today that
Sure.
like it'll come up in a conversation like, oh, no, I learned this week. You should do this instead, or you should do that. You teach that to somebody else. What's the ripple effect?
Yeah.
Now we're all doing a little bit better. And if we could all just gradually do a little bit better, it's just like credit. Most people, it's not going to go like this. If we could just gradually all work together and help each other, we'll all live a little bit better.
That's cool, man. I mean, everyone, it's been a struggle out there for a lot of people for years now, dude. I mean, it's tough, but I'm happy to see you're doing well.
I get mad when I see people doing a lot more with their fantasy football stats than they do their FICO scores. And that's kind of the problem we have in this country is people are way more inclined to be like, oh, I'll figure out my fantasy football stats, or I'll figure out how to set up all this equipment and stuff like that. They won't spend 15 minutes a week to manage their finances to make life that much simpler.
Right.
And that's where I just hope to inspire people to say, don't be embarrassed. My private community it's designed just for that. It's called the 700 credit class for a reason. It's a bunch of people that are all trying to get to the same end result.
Give everybody a way to reach you and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so 700 credit class, if you guys just want general credit information, 700 credit class is 2.5 hours. In the classroom section, there's 2.5 hours of pre-recorded content, what the credit system is, how the credit system works, how to establish your first couple accounts, how to get accounts with no credit inquiries and stuff like that. If you want one-on-one coaching, send me an email, info@iteachcredit, or you can just go to iteachcredit.com. But sending me an email is probably the best way. The first 5-minute, 10-minute consultation is free. And I'm just going to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to ask you what your desired situation is, and we're going to compare where you are now and what it's going to take to get to the desired situation. And if we feel it's a good fit for you, then we'll do it.
It's good stuff. Thanks so much for coming on, brother.
Yeah, man. Happy to help you.
Before we leave,
okay.
So I posted a clip of my closing question that I was asking people, so I'm going to get a new one out. Let's see. I got a couple here to choose from. If your life was a movie, what would the title be and who would star as you?
If my life was a movie, what would the title be and who would star as me? Interesting question. If my life were a movie.
It's a two-parter.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. God, I get emotional when I think about it. It's funny. The movie with Will Smith, In Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
I crashed and burned twice in life. Like, lost everything. Sleeping on an office floor 12 years ago today. And I built back slowly and got to here. I don't know what the name of the movie would be, but I can tell you this. Like, never down and out. For some reason, that comes back to me because it's like Bitcoin, right? I bought my first Bitcoin at $660. 3 months later, that thing was worth like $300. And I'm like, oh, you know what? If I don't sell it, I didn't lose it, right? 18 months later, it's worth $2,200. So never down and out. Would kind of be like the title. Who would play me? You know who I would have to say? Robert Downey Jr.
Okay.
You talk about a guy who crashed and burned, and everybody thought he was done. I literally had one of my best friends say to me, "Yeah, I didn't think you were ever going to recover." After the second one, like suicide watch, the whole 9 yards. Like these people thought I was literally down and out, and never coming back. And here I am now doing things like this with you, and so yeah.
That's a great answer.
Cool, man. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Like, subscribe, share, Real Well Radio.
If you have questions, ask them. We are here to educate. We are not here to make fun of. We are not here. It's not to look at me. It's to learn with me. And that's what I want, other people like Brian and I to all come together and do. So thank you guys so much.
Beautiful stuff. See you guys.
Cheers.